Welcome to Brandstorm, the podcast that talks to the people behind America's brands. I'm Dan Trzynski, president of Platypus Advertising and Design.
And I'm Nancy Christopher, PR director at Platypus. Are you confident enough to know what to say in a crucial moment when the stakes are really high?
Never.
Our guest today can help you not only speak, but also be heard. Please welcome Julie Loeding, a certified corporate trainer of crucial conversations and a management and marketing instructor at Waukesha County Technical College. She's also a former Miss Wisconsin, too. Hi, Julie.
Yes, I am. Thank you so
Wow.
much for inviting me today.
I know, we really have quite the guest today.
No kidding.
So,
Is my crown here?
No,
yeah,
where's
you
your-
didn't bring it with
no
you,
sash
darn
and
it.
tiara.
So, Julie, what exactly is a crucial conversation?
Well, people think crucial conversations has to be something really big, like that you need to let someone know they're at risk of being fired. And it can be something like that, but crucial conversations happen every day. It could be you're having differences of opinion on marketing strategy, and that could be a difficult conversation to have. It could be that you have someone who's not pulling their weight in the workplace, and that could be a crucial conversation. It's defined as strong emotions, high stakes, opposing opinions.
I love this topic because it's a show about branding, but it crosses so many different lines: internal, external, client, and agency, or it can be that as well too, right? Do you coach people
Absolutely.
on how to talk to vendors appropriately if they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, or a client that the relationship's getting rocky?
I think that it could be used in the workplace, your personal life, and I myself personally have done a lot of training in various sectors, manufacturing, healthcare, but I definitely see it in ad agencies, world of marketing, because you are dealing with unusual ideas, you're dealing with clients who may not like what you're presenting, and yet
That
you're
never happens.
hardly ever.
So this basically helps anyone.
It really does. And I would have to say, not only do I like it for my clients, but I feel like I wouldn't have survived a lot of personal life situations without these abilities.
Just to clarify, Crucial Conversations it's a book, it's a program, and it's a class a certification that you have
So
to coach people. We're not just coining that phrase, Crucial
I'm
Conversations.
really glad you asked
Okay.
because I need to give credit where credit is due. So this program is from a company called Vital Smarts in Utah, and they're a global provider of training. The Crucial Conversations book came out in 2002 and several times has been a bestseller. So they really spent about 35 years studying the best performers in organizations and looked at it from all kinds of people within that organization to be able to identify those best performers. And they narrowed it down to these people were really good at handling very difficult conversations. So a lot to learn from those folks, and they put it all in a book that has a lot of real-world experiences, but you can take a 16-hour training through Vital Smarts. They offer public conferences and corporate training.
What made you decide to get certified in this?
I had done a lot of training for industry in Wisconsin, tried many different types of training materials, and everyone thinks they have something great, and some of them are really good, but this one I felt really was hands-on. They had tried so many different ways to get at good practice and good example, and I think they nailed it, and the packaging of the product is super, and there's good support after the training. So I felt it was solid. I think it also, for me, I've always been interested in psychology, emotional intelligence, and I think it combines those pieces as well.
How do most of us handle a crucial conversation?
I think emotions easily get in the way, especially when you really care about something.
Yeah.
You tend to get over emotional.
Do you think, Nance?
I'm pretty emotional. I know. It is a fault of mine. I need your course.
Well, and I hope today maybe I can provide a few
This really isn't a
pieces.
podcast, Nancy. It's an intervention.
Happy to help in whatever way necessary. But it is difficult when you care a lot about what you're talking about. So being able to understand the place for emotions, how to calm yourself down, and how to actually speak up when you need to, because a lot of times people say nothing. And you go on year after year, you come home, you walk in the door, and you're mad about that same problem. And so Crucial Conversations teaches you how to identify what those are and how to speak up.
So, how do you separate these emotions from the facts? Do you write it all down first? Do you work from a script?
There are pieces of that training that walk you through a script, but oftentimes those crucial conversations happen on the fly. So you do practice how to handle those. And so step one would be to really think about, what do I really want? And that concept is called start with heart. So you think, what do I want for myself personally? What do I want for the other person? What do I want for the relationship? What do I want for the organization? And it forces you to get off of just yourself and your own emotions. It helps a lot to really speak from the heart, talk about what you want for the relationship, and to know what conversation to have, because a lot of times difficult conversations are like a knotted ball of yarn, and you have to pull it apart a bit and sometimes separate and have different conversations rather than just one.
So, what are some of the things that Crucial Conversations teaches?
Step one is just identify the conversation to have, timing, place, really important. Start with heart. So really saying to someone, I'm letting you know that you're, as an example, that you're not cutting it in this position because I care about you, because I actually think you can do better. And what I have to say to you is for the purpose of helping you. So that's quite different than I just start out by saying you're doing this wrong and that wrong, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
Yeah, it kind of disarms it,
Right.
right?
Why
from
did you do
This
this?
is about to be an ugly conversation,
Correct.
but it doesn't have to be. Let's be constructive.
And a big part of it is creating safety, so making it really comfortable for people to talk honestly. And it's especially important, I think, for leaders in an organization, because if people aren't telling you their ideas or their problems, how does that help you?
Yeah, you're going to miss out on a great idea if you don't include everybody and make them feel safe enough to say it.
Exactly. And why not have that out in the open? Every organization has problems, but the ones that are successful are those that can literally talk about the problems. But it takes skill to create that safety.
Does turf come into play at all? Like, should you go to a neutral ground somewhere, or does it matter?
I think it's a wonderful point, and I think it's intimidating, just as you described that.
Right.
So that's part of the conversation, that setting. So trying to find that right time, that right place. One of my favorite places to have a conversation, I hate to say this, but is in a car. There's no escape. And some of the really good conversations I've had happen, like going up to a conference or just spending some time with someone driving. But they are trapped, so there are other options besides that. So you do want to make it safe. That's important. You want to watch for safety when you have a lot of people in a meeting. Who's being shut down? How can you call out that person that maybe is saying nothing? I think also sometimes playing the devil's advocate, bringing up that topic that no one wants to touch is important.
Why do you think, Julie, people should really take this training? What can they get out of it?
I think when an organization decides to embrace this, what they wind up having is a set of common tools that they can use when it's difficult. They know what it means to, I don't feel safe, and they know the tools to use to make it safe. They know how to end a difficult conversation with an action plan. What are we doing from here? Listening, I think, is so huge, and people think they're listening, but it's so much deeper than that, down to I'm really looking at your face for micro expressions to indicate that maybe there's a problem.
I was wondering about that. Like, how does body language come into play? You start seeing somebody either tuning out or tearing up, or are those things you need to be paying attention to?
Absolutely, and you can call them on that. For example, I could say, Dan, it looks like you're smiling. Did I say something that is humorous?
Do I amuse you? Right out of Goodfellas.
Right. So you literally point out what you're seeing in their facial expression, and they can say, well, you're right. I do think that's silly, or I am sad about something. It makes that conversation much deeper. So I think someone would want to have this training to be able to have more open conversations in their organization and literally to solve problems faster and get better results.
So you started with start with the heart.
Mm-hmm.
Got to have safety. What are some of the other basic steps?
Also, when you make that choice to speak up, to start tentatively, some people come on really strong. They're now in that crucial conversation and they just blast somebody with all the information. But to talk a little bit tentatively and open it up very soon in the conversation for feedback. So it might go something like this. So I've told you about the areas that I have concern. Now I'd like to hear your thoughts on this issue. Silence.
And then shut up.
And
Yeah.
and really let them talk, because you may be missing pieces, you might not, but it lets that other person know that they have a part in this, that you're together, you're solving a problem.
Yeah. What happens when it starts going extremely badly? How do you rein it back in?
And we would call that the downward spiral.
Okay.
You start talking about one thing and suddenly it's a lot of other things, a lot of emotions are there. And this is such a simple step, but it's really powerful to simply step out of that conversation. So it might go something like this. I see things aren't going well. My intention was this. I see we've moved to shouting at each other, name calling. Let's just step back a minute and perhaps start again. So it's almost like a timeout, which helps with your emotions.
So you don't just walk away from it. You don't end it.
Correct.
You just
Correct.
and say, well, maybe we should do this tomorrow, or
It might be, maybe we should
Oh.
do this tomorrow. It could be an apology, honestly. Or it could be contrasting, which is a skill that says, my original intent was this, not this. So if I were giving someone difficult feedback and they started to cry, I might say, my original intent was to help you, not to get you upset. Can we look at it in that light? So sometimes having them see what you don't intend is important. I didn't intend to hurt you. I didn't intend to make you feel bad. I'm really wanting to help you.
There was another word that you used called priming.
So if you think about the idea of pulling the handle of a pump to get the water to come out, you'd be doing the same thing to get someone to talk, asking questions in different ways, pausing until you hear an answer, putting out hypotheticals, see how they react. So that's the idea of like you're priming a pump.
So when you do training for this, you're not just training leadership, you want to train the entire company so that both sides of these conversations, people can be using these
Absolutely.
skills to help communications internally all the way around.
And typically we would look to start with senior leadership so that you have buy-in, but it's much better if your whole organization is a part of the training.
What does that training look like? 2 weeks, 6 weeks, a month,
and there's
6 months?
There's different delivery formats that you could set up based on what the company needs, but in total it's 16 hours of training spread over various time frames. There could be online components that you could use, very cool videos, lots of time for individuals they pick a partner and really dive into an important issue for them. And I think that's where the richness is. Not just once and done, you think you've got these skills, but over several weeks that you revisit an issue and really dig deep and get some insight into how could I be better at handling this? How might I be perceived by the other person? So it's very rich. I love that.
You can build this to however it fits into any company's schedule.
Absolutely.
So you say, look, this is going to be a 2-day offsite retreat and we're going to really immerse ourselves into this. Or you could say, we're going to do this an hour a week for 16 weeks.
Absolutely.
And do you charge by the number of people involved? How exactly do they charge?
So there is a cost for the materials, which are really terrific, almost like a journaling book that guides you through it, the textbook. There's an MP3 that has all kinds of videos and information you can use later. So great set of materials, and those are priced per person. And then there's a cost for the trainer.
So in a nutshell, who do you like to see? What type of groups are you looking to help?
I just enjoy seeing the results so much from this. that I'm almost willing to do it for whoever has an interest. And just an example would be a supervisor that in the past was known for handling problems by screaming at someone and maybe is on the verge of losing their job. And then after training, you see really kind of the light go on, and they are able to, you see it in practice, that they're able to find other words and a different demeanor for handling problems. And then later, you find out from their supervisor that they've really improved. That's rewarding. And I do enjoy that. I teach at Waukesha County Technical College, and I am a trainer for our college. And in fact, we have training coming up for our whole management group this spring. So looking forward to doing that. And
Is this something that you teach to students as well?
no, actually, the way the licensing for this works is that anyone who teaches this, you have to be internal to your organization. So I can do it for my organization, but I can't do it for the general public. Vital Smarts handles general public conferences where they teach it. I also do
And
some.
who is Vital Smarts?
So Vital Smarts is the company that owns the material, and they're in Utah.
Crucial conversations. Yeah.
Right. And they have other training materials as well. They have a program called Influencer, Getting Things Done, Crucial Accountability, which are also super. I do some work for a consulting arm of Vital Smarts in Chicago, and through that group, we book other companies around the area. So I do some training for that group as well.
There's so many training programs out there for sales, for production, for all sorts of departments
Team
at
building,
companies, team
yeah.
building. How do you know what's really good, and what do you like the most about this one?
Well, I would say it's been in the top 10 on Training Magazine's pick for the last several years.
I saw that and on the New York bestsellers list for a long time.
Why I like it is I think it just speaks to the average person. It uses real life scenarios, personal and workplace, and they're just relatable. And I think that the practice incorporated is excellent, and it helps you also think of like vital moments. What are those times where you're most likely to need this, and to identify those and be ready for them?
And they do make you feel comfortable. I mean, you can fit into the scenarios. I know one of them was, the wife finds an item where he spent like $40-some for some no-tell motel. And she's like going to whatever thought right then and there. And he's going to walk in the door, and what's going to be the first thing that comes out of her mouth? And is this going to be, we're going to get a divorce after this, or are we going to work this out? And they take you through that scenario 3 different ways. And I thought that was kind of interesting.
That's one of my favorite ones,
Right.
Nancy. And it's unusual because it's a personal situation in a corporate training that you're taking, but it's so real because most people would react by flying off the handle.
Right.
But as you see the various versions, you can see starting more by asking questions and starting with the facts delivers better results.
Exactly. So if someone wants to learn more about this, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
I would have them contact me through LinkedIn, Julie Loeding, and
And you should spell that.
Loeding, or contact Vital Smarts at vitalsmarts.com for all the training they offer all around the country.
We'll put that stuff in the show notes too. But you'll do other types of corporate training for people too through the college. And I know you've done sales training in the past and different things like that.
And I
followed
should
your
speak
career.
to our college. Waukesha County Technical College has a whole corporate training division, which I've been a part of for a very long time, as well as doing on-campus
Right.
training. So I would suggest with Waukesha County Technical College to go to our website, look at corporate training, and really we do offer everything from welding, blueprint reading, to managerial training and sales training.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Julie, for
Thank
joining
you.
us today.
It's been a pleasure, and I hope all your
Well,
conversations
this was
are great.
This was very comfortable.
Well,
So-
good. I made
so
you
you
feel
ju-
safe.
Because I
Yes,
should have been
yes,
nervous.
I felt
because I was
safe.
going to be nervous
Right.
having Miss Wisconsin in the room.
Right.
So,
Well, I have a former newscaster with you, Nancy.
no, not news, feature.
Feature.
All right. And to everyone listening, if you like what you've heard today, please don't hesitate to share, review, and hopefully subscribe to Brandstorm.
This is Dan Trzynski along with Nancy Christopher at Platypus Advertising and Design, an awesome company that creates perceptions that influence choice for a variety of regional, national, and even global brands on a daily basis. We hope you'll join us next week for another episode of Brandstorm.